I've got breaking news for y'all. The SEC has appealed the Judge Torres ruling in the Ripple lawsuit. I'll give you all the details and what the legal experts are saying. Plus, the SEC's Director of Enforcement is stepping down. What's happening here? Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome into the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. I'm your host, Tony Edward. On your way in, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Folks, the breaking news, the SEC has filed a notice of appeal of Judge Torres' ruling in the Ripple lawsuit. Now remember, Judge Torres ruled that secondary market sales of XRP are not securities and that the token itself intrinsically is not a security. However, she said the institutional sales do count as securities transactions because there's a contract. However, the ruling that the token itself intrinsically is not a security and secondary market sales like on exchanges are not securities was the big lion's share of the victory in this lawsuit for Ripple. Yes, the SEC won part of it, but that not so much because it didn't impact the broader markets. That was just institutional sales. Well, the SEC is definitely trying to appeal Judge Torres' ruling on the secondary market sales. Now, we had an idea that this may happen. I've been covering it on the podcast, in my newsletter, and so forth, and there's a lot to cover here. So let me share what different folks are saying. First up, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse. He tweeted, "If Gensler and the SEC were rational, they would have moved on from this case long ago. It certainly hasn't protected investors and instead has damaged the credibility and reputation of the SEC. Somehow, they still haven't gotten the message. They lost on everything that matters. Ripple, the crypto industry, and the rule of law have already prevailed. While we'll fight in court for as long as we need to, let's be clear, XRP's status as a non-security is the law of the land, and that does not change even in the face of this misguided and infuriating appeal. Remember, when the SEC tried unsuccessfully to file an interlocutory appeal, they made clear they had no intention of challenging XRP's status as a non-security. So folks, despite this appeal, the law of the land today and until the courts rule again is that XRP is not a security. So I don't think this should cause any issues as far as exchanges delisting XRP. I think it's just going to remain as is because majority of the industry is in a legal battle already with the SEC, right? And many of the folks battling the SEC, like Coinbase, Kraken, and so forth, are using Judge Torres' ruling to fight back the SEC. So I don't think we're going to see any delisting of XRP like we saw in 2020. We are in a completely different environment. People are not scared anymore. They've already got their Wells notices on lawsuits, and the industry is punching back, counter-suing, as well as proactively suing, even if they haven't gotten anything from the SEC. So a very different environment, and I don't expect XRP to be delisted. I don't anticipate any major effects on the price unless, once again, there is some new ruling from the courts. But this thing looks like it's just going to continue on and on into another year or years. It could certainly be that way. And I'll give you some details here. Ripple's chief legal officer, Stuart Alderati, said they are thinking about cross-appealing. So he says the SEC's decision to appeal is disappointing, but not surprising. This just prolongs what's already a complete embarrassment for the agency. The court already rejected the SEC's suggestion that Ripple acted recklessly and there were no allegations of fraud. And of course, there were no victims or losses. Instead of faithfully applying the law, the agency under this chair continues to engage in litigation warfare against the industry. We are evaluating whether to file a cross appeal. Either way, the SEC's lawsuit has been irrational and misguided from the start, and we're ready to prove that yet again in the appellate court, once again taking the lead for the industry. Number 3, he says, coincidence that the SEC's enforcement director announced his resignation about an hour before this. I'll get to that later in the podcast. Let me highlight something else here. Eleanor Terra of Fox Business says, Ripple is considering a cross appeal. This means Ripple could choose to file an appeal on Judge Torres' ruling on institutional sales or on the penalty of $125 million. Both appeals would stay wrapped up in one Second Circuit case. If Ripple does file an appeal, it has 14 days to do it, and the clock starts tomorrow. So the SEC wants to play these games, Ripple will play the game as well and appeal either the penalty amount or the institutional sales. So once again, this thing is not going to wrap up in a month or so. This thing is going to go for the long haul again. But I think the SEC lost the majority of this. The optics are bad for Gensler and the SEC with all these congressional hearings, all these lawsuits, and the election is right around the corner. So I am not concerned about this appeal because I anticipated it might happen. And as stated, we are in a very different environment than we were in 2020. What is a cause for concern is that the SEC will most likely block the XRP ETF. Bitwise, just yesterday we talked about it. They filed for an ETF that's dead on arrival. Just like the Solana ETF. Solana is mentioned in many of these lawsuits, such as Coinbase, Kraken, and so forth. And that's why it was withdrawn by the folks at VanEck. So one thing I wanted to highlight, Eleanor Terra of Fox Business found another ETF filing done by Canary Capital. I mentioned to you guys yesterday, Canary Capital launched an HBAR trust for institutional investors. So you're seeing these different institutional investors see the demand for XRP, and it was a great find by Eleanor that another investment firm was trying to get this XRP ETF going. Now, attorney Fred Rispoli, who I will have on the podcast tomorrow to talk about all of this, he's obviously a legal expert and he can break all of this down better for all of us. He says, SEC appeals, Ripple will cross appeal, SEC's company ending district court cases against Coinbase and Kraken continue. Life continues. Don't freak out. But if you are a crypto single issue US voter, you absolutely cannot vote for the Harris-Walz ticket. There is no reset. Can't argue with him there, folks. And once again, I'll have him on tomorrow to break down this appeal and what may happen next. Now, in a very surprising move, Grewal, he's another scumbag, a Gensler crony, director of the Division of Enforcement, will depart the agency effective October 11th. That is very strange, and it's akin to what Jay Clayton did. Make a scumbag move, right? File this appeal and then run out the door. Jay Clayton filed a lawsuit. Next day, I'm out the door, right? That is what could be happening here. So he's probably trying to save himself, and I don't know who's going to replace him and whatever it is. But actually, they said here, upon Mr. Grewal's departure, Sanjay Wadhwa, the division's deputy director, will serve as the acting director. So they don't really have anybody lined up here. So something is just strange. Once again, it's like the Jay Clayton situation. Tom Emmer says, SEC Director of Enforcement Grewal encouraged lawlessness and chaos at Gary Gensler's SEC. He even admitted it to us on record in 2022. Good to see him packing his bags. Let's hope Gary Gensler will be out of there soon. Now, Jake Tversky gave some great thoughts on the director leaving. He says, it's not normal for an SEC enforcement director to get disappeared like this, gone on 9 days' notice with no replacement lined up. Perhaps the inevitable end to a campaign of unlawful harassment and misrepresentation, resulting in many embarrassing defeats in court. Bye. Peace. But look, I don't trust Gary. We got to wait and see. But this is very strange. And maybe, like I said, it's akin to Jay Clayton's move, right? Do a scumbag move and then run out the door. Now, guys, I know a lot of negative news there, right? Not great news, but we got some positive things happening in Congress. More Democrat members of Congress are supporting crypto. Representative Ro Khanna, one of the top Democrats who I've had on the podcast, he's the first Democrat congressman to endorse a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He says Bitcoin has been seized by the U.S. government, should be used as a strategic reserve asset given its potential for appreciation. And this is really great to see. But we need to hear it from who? Kamala Harris. But things are not looking good for her from a crypto standpoint. I'm happy. You have folks in the House and the Senate that are embracing crypto on the Democrat side, but until the head of the snake says it, I can't, fully support the Harris camp on this stuff because look, come on, you're attacking the hell out of crypto and trying to stifle innovation. So pretty crazy. But once again, guys, I'm optimistic that things are going to move into Congress where we can get legislation through. Remember, the FIT 21 bill moved out of the House with the support of 71 Democrats. Dennis Porter, who heads up the Satoshi Act Fund, tweeted out today, big things coming for Bitcoin in the USA. This month is going to set the foundation for Americans to witness the true bipartisan and unifying nature of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is winning in the United States. So we could see some legislation go through. I don't know. I'm going to try to get him on the podcast to get details. Now, before we go further, be sure to check out our sponsor, BitGo, which is one of the top tier crypto custodians in the market, guys. BitGo is headed up by Mike Belshi, who's a Web 1.0 and 2.0 legend. BitGo works with many big companies such as Bitstamp Exchange, Pantera Capital, 21 Shares, Sui. They help to custody some of the assets for the Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs. And they have a lot of great services, wallet services and much more. In fact, Nike uses BitGo's wallet services for their NFTs, and they have a self-hosted wallet for retail. So you can go use their wallet service, and great company, guys, working with many big brands. They're fully insured. They have great security. And once again, a lot of big companies and exchanges use them. So if you'd like to learn more about BitGo, go to bitgo.com, link in the description. Now, going back to the topic of crypto regulations, Tom Emmer tweeted out, "The lame duck isn't out of play." What is he talking about? Well, he was recently interviewed by Decrypt, where he said the Fit 21 bill could make it out of the Senate or get through the Senate during the lame duck session later this year. Fingers crossed that happens, folks. That would be a big win, because if you can get it out of the Senate, then it can make its way to a new president and be put into law. So let's hope this happens. This could really help in building momentum for the bull market, guys. And here's another big win. Kalshi, which is a prediction market, crypto base, they won their appeal where U.S. presidential election markets are legal. Remember, Polymarket is doing the same thing. So this is a big win, and it's something Elizabeth Warren was trying to shut down. So you guys know what to do. If you're in the state of Massachusetts, vote for John Deaton, kick out Elizabeth Warren. If you're not in the state of Massachusetts, donate to John Deaton. Guys, that's the news. I know the XRP news regarding the SEC's appeal really sucks. It's bad news. But I once again, I'm not worried, because it's a very different environment. I don't believe any companies are going to delist XRP, especially you had Grayscale just launch a trust, a lot of other companies trying to get ETFs and so forth. But I do think the ETFs are not going to make it, honestly, because of what's happening. But this shouldn't affect XRP's trading unless there's some mass delisting, which I don't think is going to happen. All right, guys. Be sure to leave your comments below, hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to sign up for my free email newsletter, 100% free, includes crypto insights and knowledge. Also, grab a copy of my book, Rethinking Crypto, on Amazon. If you bought a copy already, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It will really help me out. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all, and I'll talk to you all later.